They didn't put me inside the ballroom. They put my name on a folding chair in a service corridor, wedged between a fire extinguisher and a trash bin that still smelled faintly of citrus cleaner and old wine. My cousin leaned over and whispered, almost apologetic, "I think they ran out of space." But my sister didn't look surprised at all. She looked satisfied. The hallway echoed with muffled music, laughter, clinking glasses, the DJ announcing the couple's first dance like it was a coronation. Inside, chandeliers glowed warm and forgiving. Outside, fluorescent lights hummed without mercy. My mother smoothed the sleeve of her champagne-colored dress, eyes darting anywhere but toward me. My father stared at the floor, studying a non-existent stain like it held answers. I tightened my fingers around the gift bag I'd wrapped myself the night before, adjusted my navy dress, and did the thing I'd learned to do best in this family. I stayed quiet, no scene, no tears, no questions. I stood up, turned toward the exit, and stepped into the cold evening air. 5 minutes later, a scream split the reception in half, but I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Clara Whitmore, and for most of my life, I was the daughter my family forgot to account for. The venue was the Cedar Ridge estate, stone walls, lake view, imported florals flown in just for photos. My sister, Elise, had chosen it because it looked expensive enough to make people feel lucky just for being invited. I drove there alone from Hartford, replaying my mother's last message in my head. "Please, Clara, no tension today. This is Elise's moment." That sentence followed me everywhere growing up. Don't take space, don't need anything, don't remind people there's another daughter. Elise was the golden one. She collected trophies, attention, forgiveness. If she cried, the room bent toward her. If she failed, someone rewrote the rules. I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the fixer. My mother called it maturity. My father called it independence. Both words meant the same thing. Invisible was convenient. The last family holiday we'd spent together peacefully was 3 years earlier, when Elise skipped Thanksgiving to travel with her then-boyfriend. For once, the house felt breathable. That night, my mother asked me to fetch an old photo album from her bedroom. Instead, I found her leather-bound planner, pages soft from years of use. Every entry began the same way: Elise's ballet recital, Elise's college interview, Elise's breakup, Elise's engagement planning, page after page, not one mention of me. When I asked her about it, she smiled like I'd misunderstood something simple. "You never needed tracking, Clara. You were always fine." That was the night I learned the difference between being overlooked and being erased. So when the coordinator stopped me outside the ballroom and hesitated over her clipboard, I already knew. "You're listed for corridor seating," she said gently, "near the service entrance." I laughed at first, waiting for the correction that never came. Inside, I could see everything through the glass doors. Elise glowing in white, my mother fixing her veil, my father straightening his tie. Outside, I sat in a draft and told myself the lie I'd told my whole life. I don't need them, but need and deserve are different things. The hallway wasn't quiet. Staff moved in and out, wheeling ice bins, whispering jokes. Every time the door opened, I caught glimpses of laughter and warmth that never reached me. Then Elise appeared. She walked toward me holding her bouquet, veil trailing behind her like smoke. She stopped just short of the doorway, reflection splitting her in two, adored inside, cruel outside. "Well," she said lightly, tilting her head, "I guess they finally figured out where you belong." I blinked. "What does that mean?" She smiled, that familiar smile she used right before taking something. "Guess you don't really count." The words were soft, surgical. "Guess you don't count." She waited for me to react, to shrink, to beg. I didn't. "There's always been room for both of us," I said quietly. "You're the one who keeps closing doors." Her eyes hardened. "Oh, Clara, not everything is about you. This is my day." "You made sure I couldn't even sit inside," I said. "What exactly am I celebrating?" For a split second, fear flickered across her face. Then it vanished. "You're always difficult," she snapped. "No wonder Mom gets tired of you." That one landed. I pictured the planner again. All those pages. None of me. I'm not difficult, I said. I just see what you pretend not to. She scoffed, turned, and disappeared back into the ballroom. When the door closed, I picked up my gift bag. Inside wasn't just a present, it was truth. 3 weeks earlier, I'd met one of Elise's former colleagues for coffee. Casual conversation turned into quiet confessions. Screenshots, dates, messages. Elise bragging about how easy her fiancé was to manipulate, how the house would be hers, how her parents would move in once she had control. I hadn't planned to use it, until now. I placed the gift among the others on the table and walked out. The night air felt sharp and clean. Behind me, music swelled. Inside, Elise twirled under chandeliers, flawless and rehearsed. Then the box was opened. The music faltered. A gasp rippled. Her fiancé went pale, scrolling. Words spilled out of speakers. Elise's voice, laughing. I'll be settled by winter. He's temporary. Silence slammed down. Her smile collapsed. Her mother-in-law stepped forward. You should read everything before you accuse anyone, she said calmly. Phones came out. The DJ killed the music. Elise screamed. I didn't hear most of it. I was already driving away. The lake stilled behind me. My phone buzzed endlessly. I didn't answer. By morning, the city smelled like rain and coffee. I booked a cabin by the coast, because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's leaving. Sometimes it's being seen, finally, by yourself. I thought walking away would be the hardest part. I was wrong. The hardest part was waking up the next morning and realizing no one had chased me. No frantic calls, no messages asking where I went, no apologies wrapped in confusion. Just silence. The kind of silence that confirms everything you already knew. I stayed in the coastal cabin for 3 days, long enough for the adrenaline to drain, long enough for my hands to stop shaking when my phone buzzed, long enough to understand that what I felt wasn't regret. It was grief. Not for Elise. Not even for my parents. But for the version of myself that kept believing I would someday earn a place that should have been mine by default. On the 4th morning, my phone finally rang. It was my father. I let it ring twice before answering. Clara, he said, voice thin. Your mother, she's not well. I closed my eyes. What does that mean? I asked. She hasn't slept. The wedding? Everything fell apart. Elise is staying with a friend. People are talking. People are talking. That was always the emergency. Not my humiliation, not my exclusion, not years of being sidelined. Just people talking. I'm sorry, he added softly. I didn't know it had gone this far. I almost laughed. You were there, I said. You watched them put me in a hallway. Silence. Then, quieter. I should have said something. Yes, I replied. You should have. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stated facts. And somehow, that hurt more. I don't want to fight, he said. I'm not fighting, I answered. I'm done. After we hung up, I walked down to the beach. The water was gray, restless, honest. I realized something then, something that surprised me. I wasn't angry at Elise anymore. Anger requires expectation. I had none left. What I felt was clarity. The wedding fallout moved fast. Screenshots circulated. Friends picked sides. Elise tried damage control. She posted a long message online about betrayal and private family matters. She never denied the recordings. She just framed herself as misunderstood. That was her gift. My mother called 2 days later. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail instead. Her voice cracked halfway through. Clara, I don't understand why you would do this to your sister. To us, after everything we've done for you. There it was. Everything we've done for you. I listened twice, not to respond, but to hear it clearly. They still believed love was a transaction. That silence was gratitude. That endurance meant consent. I didn't call back. Instead, I wrote a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Because I wanted every word to be deliberate. I wrote about the hallway, about the planner, about the way my presence was tolerated, never welcomed. I wrote that I didn't expose Elise out of spite. I exposed her because silence had already cost me years, and I ended it with one sentence. I am not punishing you. I am choosing myself. I mailed it and didn't look back. Weeks passed. The cabin became routine. Morning walks, black coffee, long stretches of thinking without being interrupted by obligation. One afternoon, I received a message from Elise. Just one line. You humiliated me. I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, You humiliated yourself. I just stopped protecting you. She didn't reply. I heard through relatives that the engagement was officially over, that Elise blamed me publicly, then privately begged her ex to reconsider, that my mother oscillated between rage and denial. None of it reached me directly, because for the first time, I wasn't positioned as the mediator. I was absent. And absence changed everything. My grandmother called one evening. Her voice was steady, warm. I'm proud of you, she said. You did what none of us ever had the courage to do. I feel lighter, I admitted, and guilty for feeling that way. She chuckled softly. That's what freedom feels like when you're not used to it. I smiled. Later that night, I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, listening to waves crash against rock. For years, I thought being strong meant enduring. Now I understood something different. Being strong meant leaving rooms where you're reduced to furniture. Being strong meant refusing to beg for a seat at a table built to exclude you. Being strong meant telling the truth, even when it shattered illusions. Especially then. I didn't know what my future looked like yet, but for the first time, it felt like it belonged to me. Not as a supporting role, not as a fixer, not as the quiet one, as myself. And that was enough. A month passed before I heard my mother's voice again, not through voicemail, not through gossip. She showed up, unannounced. I was back in the city by then, living in a small apartment near the water. Nothing fancy, just quiet, just mine. The knock on the door wasn't gentle, it was hesitant. When I opened it, she stood there holding her purse with both hands, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She looked older. Not dramatically. Not tragically. Just worn down by reality catching up. Clara, she said, my name trembling between relief and resentment. I didn't step aside right away. Yes, I replied. I need to talk to you. I studied her face, the familiar tension around her mouth, the instinct to control the narrative even now. You can talk, I said, but you can't rewrite. That startled her. She nodded slowly and stepped inside. She didn't comment on the apartment, didn't criticize the furniture, didn't ask why I'd chosen something so small. That alone told me everything. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed. You didn't have to destroy your sister, she said quietly. I felt something settle in my chest. Calm. I didn't destroy her, I answered. I stopped lying. She flinched. You aired private things. You humiliated her in front of everyone. I leaned forward slightly. Mom, I said, evenly. She humiliated herself in private long before I ever spoke. I just refused to absorb the damage anymore. Her eyes filled, but her voice hardened. She was under pressure. So was I replied. For years. Silence. Then something unexpected happened. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't know how bad it was, she whispered. I didn't interrupt. I thought, if we kept things smooth, if Elise was happy, everything else would fall into place. I laughed softly, not cruelly. Everything else was me, I said. I was what you sacrificed to keep things smooth. She looked up sharply. That's not true. It is, I said gently. And deep down, you know it. Her hands trembled slightly. You were always so capable, she said. You didn't need as much. That sentence, the one that explains everything. I needed the same things, I said. I just didn't get them. She pressed her lips together, fighting something behind her eyes. For years, she said slowly, I told myself you were fine, that you understood. I understood, I said, that I came last. That finally broke her. She covered her face and cried, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, the kind of crying people do when they realize apologies won't undo anything. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. You don't, I said. You accept it. She looked at me, confused. Acceptance is the repair, I continued. Not excuses, not explanations, just accountability. She nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she said. 2 words. Not enough, but real. I didn't hug her. I didn't reject her either. I hear you, I said, but I need distance. She swallowed. For how long? I thought about it. As long as it takes for this to stop being about your guilt and start being about my healing. She nodded again. When she left, the apartment felt lighter. Not because she'd apologized, but because I didn't abandon myself to receive it. In the months that followed, the family restructured without me, and it showed. Without a fixer, tension surfaced. Without a buffer, conflicts exploded. Without someone absorbing the damage, they finally felt it. Elise moved to another state. She never apologized. She didn't have to. Her silence was explanation enough. I rebuilt slowly. New routines, new friendships, new boundaries that didn't require justification. Sometimes people asked about my family. I learned to say, we're distant, without apologizing for it. One evening, sitting alone with a glass of wine, I realized something that made me smile. My silence used to cost me everything. Now, it protected me. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need applause. I needed peace. And I finally had it. Time has a way of rearranging the truth. Months after everything fell apart, I realized something quietly profound. No one ever asked me to come back. Not to fix things. Not to smooth things over. Not to hold everything together again. And that told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't missed for who I was. I was missed for what I provided. Once that role disappeared, so did their urgency. I used to think that made me disposable. Now I understand it made me free. One afternoon, I ran into someone who had attended the wedding, a distant cousin, someone I barely knew. She hesitated before speaking, then said, You know, people finally see it now. How they treated you. I smiled politely. It didn't matter. I didn't need witnesses anymore. The version of me that needed validation died in that hallway. The version of me that survived didn't need approval. I rebuilt my life with intention. Not dramatically, not publicly. Just, honestly, I chose peace over proximity, boundaries over obligation, silence over self-betrayal. And something strange happened when I stopped explaining myself. People stopped trying to rewrite me. One evening, I stood by the window of my apartment, city lights flickering below, and I thought about that younger version of me, the one who believed love was earned through endurance. If I could speak to her now, I wouldn't tell her to be stronger. I'd tell her this. You don't have to prove your worth to people who benefit from you doubting it. Walking away doesn't make you cruel. Telling the truth doesn't make you dangerous. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. I didn't win anything that night. I didn't gain inheritance. I didn't gain applause. I didn't gain a family that suddenly understood me. What I gained was far more valuable. I gained my voice, my time, my peace. And once you have those, no one ever gets to take them from you again. If you've ever been the one holding everything together while quietly falling apart, this is your reminder. You're allowed to let go. And sometimes letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the moment you finally become the main character in it. End.